This world runs on the golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules. That's a quote from Dr. Jim Marrs. In order for me to explain the importance of gold in the ancient past and our world today, I'll have to go very deep into world history. In fact, we're going to go so far back that some people will dismiss the things I'm going to describe as pure fantasy. If you dig enough, you'll find that most of the events that I'm about to outline are well recorded in history. I'll start with ancient Sumeria and what some people see as the creation of the human race altogether. I believe the people that came here, based off of what I've been researching for nearly 10 years now, are multiracial. The theory is split among two groups. One group wants to believe that it was all one race. I don't think it's all that simple. They weren't all black, or all white, or all native, indigenous, aboriginal. There was a mix of races over many thousands of years, just like Egypt, the land of Kim. There were black kings and queens there. Over time it became Arabs, and eventually became Greeks. In one account of the Sumerian tablets, one of the Anunnaki married a woman from another planet. The Vedic text, the Bhagavad Gita, describes many different races of people. Some were blue, some were green. In Egypt, Osiris was depicted as a green man. The people there say this was his true skin color. There were close to 1 million clay tablets found all over Mesopotamia. Clay tablets were used to record pretty much anything that needed to be written down and kept. Receipts for trades and transactions, contracts, marriage documents, your common everyday stuff. Among these are historical events and eyewitness descriptions of things that were kind of hard to explain for some of these primitive people. Regardless, they did their best to describe what they were seeing and felt like these events were important enough to document. A summary of the information translated and extracted from them would be to say that an extraterrestrial race of humans that were advanced enough to appear as gods among the men of Earth are the same entities that are given credit for the creation of the first Earth humans, or at least advanced modern humans like you and me. Humans were created to mine gold, to help them repair the atmosphere of their home planet Nibiru. Igigi can be translated as eyes of the sky, that watch, who deflower. They were also credited as being the directive force in bringing enlightenment and the structure of civilization that we have at the present moment. They taught the people to farm instead of travel and hunt for food. I recommend a book by Andrew Collins titled From the Ashes of Angels, The Legacy of a Fallen Race. This was done by the genetic engineering of a new species by breeding their genes with the hominid life that already existed on Earth when they arrived. The reason for our creation was to be used as a labor resource by the Igigi, the lower class of the Anunnaki. The Igigi were a servant class that existed before human beings were created. I'm leaving a link to a PDF file of the book in this video's description. I would also like to add that the offspring of these Anunnaki were obviously the Nephilim mentioned in Genesis of the Holy Bible. You can read more about the Anunnaki and their arrival on Earth and the creation of the Homo sapiens. This brings us to the biblical character known as Moses. Who was he exactly? Where did he come from? In the Bible, he was said to have been hidden away since birth because his bloodline was a threat to the Egyptian establishment at that time. He was educated in such a way that he was seen as a wealthy, high-ranking Egyptian. When we compare the early life of Moses to Egyptian pharaoh Akhenaten, we get many similarities. Akhenaten was said to have been exiled from Egypt because he believed in what he called the one true God. He became known as the Moses. The name Moses means pretender to the throne. Because he was a pharaoh, he was allowed to take his followers with him and set up his life of exile. So he took the Hebrew people with him on a 40-year journey until they finally reached the Promised Land. Akhenaten was the first to begin instituting a monotheistic belief system around 1400 to 1350 BC. One may ask, where did they get all of this information? Where did this template for control come from? Just imagine that the structure we are living in today, which we actually created, was a template that was overlaid on the hologram of our perceived reality. At the beginning of this entire mental time construct, the end result was already designed and put in place. A grand solar year is a 26,000-year cycle in which our sun revolves around the galactic center. We also have the precession of the equinoxes, which is the wobble of the North Pole. One of these wobbles takes a grand solar year to complete. The Mayans charted these larger time cycles, including all of the interlocking wheels of time and space. They actually had 17 calendars. The December 21st, 2012 date marked the completion of one of these grand solar years. This was just the completion of a specific template that was a program designed for us to fully perceive our own prison that was already constructed before the beginning. Many of us are all falling behind in doing this. I know this sounds like some far out stuff, but allow me to explain. Some may laugh at what they claim are ridiculous theories of certain key players in the world meeting in secret to establish a system of control over society. Some of these group meetings aren't really so secret, and some might wonder how so much of this stuff lines up throughout history, as if certain people could communicate independent of time and space. I believe that the various occult societies that span through our history were accessing what some refer to as the Akashic Records. The Akashic Records, or what some scientists call the psi field, or noosphere, is a field of thought encircling the Earth that has emerged through the evolution and growth and complexity of consciousness. The noosphere contains legal, educational, religious, research, industrial, and technological systems of thought. These social phenomena in the noosphere emerge through and are constituted by the interaction of human minds. Think of it as a dimension or unified field of consciousness containing all of the mental information that has ever existed in the collective minds of humanity. This field contains information that spans over millennia. This dimension is not a new discovery of modern science. It was known about thousands of years ago. In Egypt, this was referred to as the plain of Sharon. There is also a plain of Sharon that is on the east coast of Israel. Shah was a word meaning orbit, along with the words Ra, meaning sun, and An, being similar to Anu, meaning heaven or sky. A combination of these words became related to the ultimate temple of light, the plane of the orbit of the light. This was a realm of consciousness that was only accessible to the kings, priests, and adepts when they became qualified by reaching a predestined state of enlightenment, a state when his aptitudes for wisdom and leadership had been enhanced to the realm of kingship called the Malkut. This is where the Hebrews derived their words Malchus, which means king, and Malkut, which is kingdom. In this period of time, they were creating what came to be called mana. In the ancient world, it was known as Shemana. When you break it down into the Egyptian or Sumerian words, you get Shem, An, and Na. Shem was said to mean firestone or starfire. An was the light of heaven, and Na meant bridge. Shemana was the firestone that acted as a bridge to heaven. In Polynesia and Melanesia, Mana meant prestige and authority. The word was also related to a concept of life force, believed to be seated in the head and associated with high social status and ritual power. What exactly was Shemana, you may be asking at this point? It was monoatomic gold. The highest ranking occultists have been believed to possess the knowledge of the process involved in creating Ormus. Ormus comes from the abbreviation ORME, which stands for Orbitally Rearranged Monoatomic Elements. Have you ever heard the term Rose of Sharon? We have the Rosicrucian order's Rosy Crucis, which isn't a rosy cross. The rosy cross is just an exoteric representation of the rosy color that is produced by the chemical reaction during this process of alchemy. The crucis, or crucible, describes the conical shape of the Shemana. We also see the symbol of the phoenix in Freemasonry and other occult societies. The Ormus is the phoenix that arises from the ashes. Phoenix is a word that is used to describe a purple-red color that looks almost crimson. This is the rosy color that the Rosy Cross symbolizes. We see the royal families of Europe wearing and using this color all the time. The Shemana was actually consumed orally by the high priesthood and would raise their conscious awareness to the plane of Sharon to access the light of Anu. There, they found the template of how they were going to build the system that would control creation. In Exodus 32 verse 4 of the Old Testament, we find the story of Moses coming down from Mount Sinai from his meeting with Yahweh to find his fellow Hebrew travelers worshipping an idol in the form of a golden statue of a calf. According to Exodus 32 verse 20, he burned the golden statue in the campfire, grinded it down into a powder, and sprinkled it in the water, and gave it to the children to drink. This story may not have literally happened in the way that it was explained, but I believe this is loosely describing the ingestion of monoatomic gold. This just scratches the surface when you look into the occult significance of gold in our modern world. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, and subscribe to my YouTube channel to get notifications when I make future content. Thank you for watching. Peace.